Members of Parliament, Shri Surinder Nagarji, Shri Anil Agarwalji, Shri Sunil Singhvi, Vice President, IEMA, Madam Charu Mathur, Director General, all the very distinguished participants on this important 15th edition of ELECRAMA, all the delegates who have come in from far and beyond across the world, a very warm welcome to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, friends from the media. Truly delighted to be back home amongst all of you. I used to be Power Minister nearly 6 years ago, but I must acknowledge that the electrical industry, more particularly IEMA and ELECRAMA, is one sector that has stayed with me throughout my last 9 years nearly as a minister. They have kept engaging with me, they've come up with brilliant ideas from time to time. In different areas of my work, they've been able to contribute significantly. And when I hear that you are doing $10 billion of export already and are targeting to go to $25 billion in the next 5 years, I'm both extremely happy and sad. Ye dil mange more. क्या होता है जब आप बहुत अच्छा काम करते हो तो आपसे अपेक्षाएं भी बढ़ जाती हैं. Sorry, we have a lot of foreign delegates, so I'll stick to English. What happens typically is when you do a good job, the expectations increase that you can do even better. It happens all through our life, whether we are in school, pursuing our education, at home, at work. It's a very normal thing. And I have, for one, witnessed ELECRAMA evolve over the years. And some of the data that we just heard about the exhibitors not getting room over here, having to be refunded their money, is truly music to my heart. Even though I think we should not rest on our laurels, we should plan an even bigger engagement going forward. How we can make this, you already said it's the largest in the world, we should make it an unbeatable exhibition. I know that it's a very, very time-consuming and work which entails a lot of personal effort by all of you. But I like the idea that was just now articulated, that possibly we could look at intersessional exhibitions being held in other parts of the world. And maybe we should look at even more ambitious targets, given the wonderful work I saw some of the startups in your industry are doing, with whom I had an opportunity to interact earlier in the day. My own sense is, ELECRAMA has of course become an institution. The electrical industry certainly makes India proud of its work both in India and internationally. I think the time has now come that what was said earlier, let the world be dependent on India, let the world become our stage. And towards that end, I would venture to suggest that we should not necessarily only look at countries which are less developed or are developing economies. We should go straight into the developed world. We should have exhibitions. To begin with, we can have UAE and Australia, 2 new markets which have opened up thanks to the FTAs. I would strongly recommend similar exhibitions in Europe and the US also, so that we go straight into the big markets, the well-paying markets, and showcase our presence, our quality, since you've assured me that you are focused on the highest and world-class quality standards, and make it known to the world that India can be a reliable and a trusted partner in their energy needs, in their energy efficiency programs, in their transition programs to clean energy. And the strength that this industry has demonstrated over the years gives me the confidence that you can do it, and I hope you will do it. Friends, after COVID-19 pandemic, the whole world recognized that working with friends, working with trusted partners is very important in the emerging world. The whole world wants to build back better. The whole world wants to have resilient supply chains. The whole world wants reliable partners. And the whole world is looking for transparency, integrity, honesty in dealing. They want the rule of law so that if there's a problem, there's a recourse to law and not one fine day a businessman picked up and just disappears or his company is taken away from him. समझने वालों को इशारा ही काफी है ना. And in this situation, let's not lose this golden opportunity that we have. These things happen once in a lifetime. Such a emerging situation where the whole world is looking up to India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership. We have the G20 presidency this year, and we'll be having a lot of opportunities to engage with businesses from across the world through B20, through Startup 20, through the various trade and investment working group meetings. And in this situation, we have very ambitious goals as a nation. The Honorable Prime Minister on 15th August has laid out the roadmap in this next 25 years, the Amrit Kal, how India will become a developed nation, how India will take prosperity and inclusive growth to every person living in India. And I think the electrical industry certainly has a very important role to play in that as we expand our efforts to make sure every Indian has a good home. And you're all aware that Prime Minister Modi's personal commitment and efforts to provide homes to our poor and relatively less privileged people have resulted in nearly 35 million homes. 3.5 crore muft mein ghar diye gaye. These 35 million homes have effectively raised the aspirational level of the poorest of the poor. Today, the world is changing so fast with the rapid spread of digital technology that a television or a smartphone is no more a luxury. It's almost there in every home. And through television, through the smartphone, through internet connectivity, our young boys and girls see what is the potential, what's happening in the world. They're seeing the better things of life that everybody desires to have. And to my mind, that opens up a huge opportunity for all of you in this room and in your industry. Because everybody now also is conscious that they want better electrical appliances. Everybody in the country today has an electric connection, thanks to Prime Minister Modi's thrust. And I was in the power ministry at that time when we embarked on the 1,000-day mission to take electricity to the remotest corners of India. And the last 18,500 villages which did not have electricity. And you will appreciate they did not have electricity because they were so far off. Many were at top of mountains, many were in terrorist-infected areas, many were in areas like Chhattisgarh where there were Maoists, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Jammu Kashmir villages didn't have electricity. We were able to take electricity to every village, then to every hamlet, and finally through Saubhagya, my esteemed colleague Sri R.K. Singh ji took that project on a mission mode and was able to ensure that every single willing consumer in the country gets an electricity connection free of charge. All these are now seeing the virtues of electricity. Electricity really transforms lives. An electric connection, the electric appliances can truly help make a person's life easier, better, more efficient. And this is one industry where we have a local domestic quality strength. I've been urging the industry and my own department that we should introduce quality control orders across the sector in electrical industry, and I seek your support in that. And the quality control orders will help us save you from unfair competition from non-transparent economies which are dumping low quality and suboptimal goods into the country. Very often the goods are so cheap that many people feel that it's very good for them. But they don't realize that cheap products never last long. And on a real longer term perspective, they'll end up being costlier than a good quality product. Those LED lights which used to come once upon a time, those lights with decorative lights that used to come, they don't even last one season. And I think it's time that we brought in quality control orders in all of these. Of course, I would urge the larger companies to handhold and support smaller companies to understand that quality is good for them, that quality will help them grow, quality will help them get better markets, better pricing. And of course, IEMA should also run campaigns to help people understand the importance of quality products, the importance of sustainability, the importance of energy efficiency, saving electricity, so that we are also able to build up on the campaign on energy conservation, which we are now also brought in as a law. The policy framework has also been made for energy conservation. And you will recall the LED program, how successful it was. We were able to bring scale. We were able to enjoy the fruits of economies of scale. And I'm given to understand that some of the companies making LEDs in India have now huge valuations and huge profits because we were able to transition from the old incandescent bulbs to LED in a very short period of time. And thanks to that, I think we've been able to significantly bring down our carbon emissions, significantly contribute to India's net zero goal by 2070, our own effort to have 500 gigawatt of clean and renewable energy in the country in the days to come by 2030. All of these open up huge opportunities for all of you. And the electricity sector is such that the entire chain, the value chain, has so many different elements that each one of your companies will have huge market potential going forward. Even the budget this year has focused on the green transition, whether in fuel, whether in energy, whether in electricity, farming, mobility, buildings, equipments. In all these sectors, all of us will have to collectively transition to green and sustainable products. It's one of the 7 priorities, the Saptarishi of the Amritkal budget. And I do believe that with your support, we can actually make energy efficiency a movement, sustainability a movement, and make sure that this starts right from childhood. I recall I've said it before, I don't know whether I've said it in one of your platforms. But Gopal Kabra, for example, will remember, Anilji will remember, when we were children, and I see a large number of people in the age group where I come from, when we were children, if we left the room without switching off the fan and the tube light, because that's used to be what we had those days, tube lights or bulbs and fans. Air conditioners were probably a rare luxury. Even if we left the room without switching on a light or a fan, am I right? थप्पड़ पड़ जाता था सीधा माँ से कि लाइट क्यों नहीं बंद की. And today the situation is that half an hour before we reach home, we call up and say, switch on the air conditioner, I'm coming home. Now these are things which all of us will have to raise an awareness about. I remember Piyush Pandey of Ogilvy and Mather had on the Energy Conservation Day, probably in 2015, gifted the ministry 2 or 3 films on energy conservation. They are really valid even today. It was children who were telling their parents to be more conscious about waste and to be more conscious about energy efficiency or saving waste. I think the time has come that we rejuvenate that spirit right from childhood, from our children, from our families, from schools, from colleges, and bring in that awareness that we'll all have to contribute to making the world a better or a safer place to live in. And clearly you can see global warming having its impact. Last year we had the heat wave hit India very early, and you know the consequences of that. We lost a lot of our wheat production thanks to the early onset of rising temperatures, the heat wave. And this year also, if you see, one can clearly see that the whole situation worldwide has been quite erratic. You are suddenly finding freezing temperatures in certain areas, you're finding heat wave in certain areas. We've had the sad and very extremely unfortunate series of earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. We don't know where the cause and effect lies, but we'll have to address every potential cause and find solutions. And therefore, I think it's extremely important that as a team, we all work towards addressing the needs not only of India but of the entire world. I would urge you to probably draw up a calendar of events. Maybe not every company will go to every event, but from a 2-year cycle of ELECRAMA, I think while we maintain the sanctity of ELECRAMA at scale, and maybe next time one venue will be inadequate, you will need to have 2 or 3 venues. So I would like to invite you to ITPO to also pick up Pragati Maidan. I'd like to invite you to come to Dwarka, where we are setting up one of the largest exhibition centers in India. But I would also urge you to take ELECRAMA to different parts of India. I mean, we could have ELECRAMA in its smaller versions at the state or regional level. I would urge you to do one in the Northeast. I've just come back from Sikkim, and truly those areas deserve our special attention. I would urge you to, I think the last time around you did it in Bangalore or somewhere? That's right. Yeah, but थोड़ा Bangalore, Mumbai से थोड़ा हट के भी सोचें. Bangalore, Mumbai, दिल्ली तो आप जाते ही हैं. चेन्नई, कोलकाता भी हो जाएगा. तो मुझे लगता है कि थोड़ा हट के, maybe at smaller level, where we will be able to encourage some domestic industry. Maybe, for example, if we were to do one in Lucknow or in Banaras, maybe if we were to do one in Jabalpur, maybe if we were to do one in... so I'm moving out of state capitals also. Think it over. I'll leave the thought with you. Electric vehicles are also becoming more and more important for the country. In fact, I remember I had in my mind that ultimately electrical vehicles will also help us in creating a natural storage for the high levels of solar energy that India can produce. So largely our solar energy, and that's the biggest source of renewable energy India has, comes in the afternoon hours. If we can look at an ecosystem, a very comprehensive ecosystem, where obviously in peak hours we need more electricity, which can only be transitioned from solar by battery storage or through our storage, pump storage or other storage systems. My own sense is, if in the afternoon we have huge amounts of solar power generation, and you can play a big role in that industry also, whether it's transmission lines, whether it's solar equipment, installation, and all the wiring and everything else that goes with that. My feeling is that if more and more people are encouraged to charge their electric vehicles in the day hours. We can use solar energy. That's one of the criticisms often levied on the electric mobility. That, oh, so what if it's electric mobility, but you're using coal to charge the battery. But were we to have an ecosystem of fast chargers across the country, every petrol pump, every resident association, the cost has come down so much that we could all probably have it in our own buildings. Multi-story building complexes could have it. And of course, two-wheelers now are being charged at home itself. But should we all make a movement to charge our electric vehicles in the afternoon hours? We could actually create the full ecosystem, the circular economy of solar power being used to charge batteries, that becoming a natural hedge over the intermittency which can damage our grids, so that afternoon consumption of power also goes up, and that will give us traction for our electric vehicles in peak hours, morning and evening, when we drive those vehicles. So really the whole circular ecosystem with renewable energy as a source of charging and electric mobility as a source of mobility which is green or sustainable, collectively, to my mind, is the answer to those critics who often are trying to run down electric vehicles or promote the ICE engines. Now, I would have better said this in an auto conference or auto industry program, but I'm saying it to you because for them, their ICE engines are very, very valuable. They want to hawk as many ICE engines as they can. I would urge you as the electric industry, which has the market opportunity, to invest in this sector, to invest in this circular ecosystem and propagate this to be a fitting response and to make the electric automobiles or electric mobility the pathway to sustainability and bringing down our dependence on crude oil and the petrol diesel ecosystem, which is both bad for our economy, bad for the foreign exchange reserves and our fundamental economic foundation, and also bad for environment and the challenges of climate change that we are all facing. As the Honorable Prime Minister has said, energy for sustainable growth in a way resonates with the Indian traditions. And that will be the pathway for the future needs and aspirations of India. I think you have a big role to play in making this happen. As we promote life, the lifestyle for environment, I think each one of you can play that very, very significant small difference with more energy efficient products, with better smart meters, with better equipment going even to the discoms and transmission companies. There was a time we had very bad quality transmission and distribution transformers and equipment going. I've been urging all of you to focus yourselves, insist on state governments also to make quality an important parameter, and become whistleblowers to those who are sullying your image, who are spoiling your image with low quality, low cost products, or supplying to these state distribution companies bad products, which in effect are hurting your interests. For example, I remember we had run a campaign to stop the CRGO, the second-hand CRGO, which was once upon a time being imported and was used in distribution transformers. I don't know what's the latest status of that. If we've been able to curb it fully, I'm happy to hear that. If we have not, why the hell are you quiet? Make a noise about it. We'll get the requisite authorities to take action on that. Please become whistleblowers to those who are hurting the interests of quality, because ultimately they are not only hurting your interests, they are hurting India's interests. So let's work together and make this a mass movement. Let quality determine the future of our industry. Let's all of us work together to achieve these significant goals that have been said before the nation, that have been said by the Prime Minister, and I'm quite confident that when we work collectively, the future is very, very bright. Of course, I'll address your suggestion of a seat on the EPC electrical panel. I tried to reach out, but we were not able to get the EPC chairman. But that's certainly a very legitimate request, having contributed $10 billion. But if I was in your place, I would be giving the minister an assurance that we will be going to $50 billion so that my department is forced to make a separate export promotion council for all of you. Thank you.